Hello friends in the interweb, Thetum Gamer here with another board game review. This time it is Richard Garfield's King of Tokyo. Now this is from Iello Games, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but I-E-L-L-O. Now the box itself recommends 2 to 6 players. It says ages 8 and up and about 30-minute gameplay. Get more into those a little bit later. Obviously, the number of players is not going to change. Now, a few things I do want to mention about this before I go into what's in the box and the gameplay. There are expansions to this. Definitely like expansion games. You get to add cards, you get to add characters, you get to add a little bit more gameplay. As for the base game itself, you have different character standees, and I didn't pull out their bases, but each player gets to choose which character they want to be. Now, gameplay does not matter with the character. You just choose who you like the best. Looks like we have a little alien dude, and I think their names are... well, their names are on their scorecards, but I didn't grab all their scorecards out. We have a Gorilla Cyborg, a Robot Lizard, a Kitty Robot, a Godzilla-type Lizard, and a Space Penguin. Now, each player chooses their character and then gets a player board. Now, the nice thing about the player board is it has a little spinning wheel for both your score and your life. Now, to win the game, one of two things has to happen. Either A, you have to be the first player to get 20 points, right there, or the last man standing. If you lose all your hit points, you're dead and you're done with the game. On top of having the player standees and the scoreboards, we have 6 standard dice for the game. Black dice with green numbers or symbols. And then we have 2 green dice with black symbols. Those you may be able to add to your rolls if you have a correct card from here. Other thing you have, of course, the game board. Nice small game board there, so it is... you can easily play it in a small area. Game itself, as you can see, this is all the pieces other than the player board sitting out here. And definitely doesn't take up much room. You do have your game cards. We'll get into that a little bit more when we get into the gameplay. Energy tokens. We'll use those to buy the game cards. You also have these little cardboard tokens, which you may be able to pick up depending on what card you buy. And speaking of those tokens, just a minor complaint I have with this game is the color scheme on the tokens. If you have any eyesight problems, it may be very difficult to tell the difference because the tokens are not only dark but also the same colors in here. So we have, dark purples and blues and such. So it may be difficult to distinguish what types of tokens are what. And again, with these, you have kind of light green tokens, but they're all very similar colors. So again, if you have poor eyesight, it may be hard to tell what tokens, but they're tokens. Just grab whatever if you're having problems with it. Now, the game does have different rules depending on how many players there are. If you have 1 to 4 players, you're not going to use Tokyo Bay. If you have 5 or 6 players, you will go ahead and use Tokyo Bay, and Tokyo Bay acts just like Tokyo City. Every player, when the game starts, chooses their character, gets their little character scorecard, and then decides who goes first. First player will go ahead and go into Tokyo City. If your turn starts and there's nobody in Tokyo City, you go there. Now, if you have 5 to 6 players, you'll treat Tokyo Bay the same way, so the first player can choose Tokyo Bay or Tokyo City. And then during your turn, whether you're in Tokyo City, Tokyo Bay, or outside, you'll go ahead and roll the dice. Now, you will roll 3 times. And each time you roll, you'll choose which dice you want to keep. And then you'll roll the remaining. And after you've rolled your third time, you tally up your dice and figure out what you're going to do for the end of your turn. Now, the dice themselves have numbers 1, 2, and 3. Have a heart, a lightning bolt, and a paw. Now, the numbers 1, 2, and 3, if you, by the end of your turn, have 3 dice that have the number 1 up, you get 1 point. Number 2, if you have 3 of them with number 2 up, you get 2 points, and same with number 3. If you roll a lightning, for every lightning you get to draw an energy cube. If you roll a heart, as long as you are not inside of Tokyo City, for every heart you roll, you raise your life by 1 point. And finally, the paw. For every paw you roll, you hit an opposing player. Now, if you're in Tokyo City, every player gets hit for every paw you roll. So let's say you roll 3 paws, every player takes off 3 life points. If you're outside of Tokyo City, for every paw you roll, the player inside of Tokyo City, or again, Tokyo Bay if you're playing with that, takes that many life points off as well. And once you've rolled, you figure out how many energy cubes you get, how many points you get, and life and all that. You get to do your final thing, and that is buy cards. Now, there will be 3 cards face up, and you can choose to buy any of these cards. Now, the cards up top tell you how many energy cubes it takes. So let's say you have 5 energy cubes. You could go ahead and buy Freeze Time. And this one says it's a keeper. Some of them are keepers, and let's see here, and some of them are discards. Keepers you keep at all times. Discards, once you use it, you go ahead and discard it. But we'll go through, this keeper says on a turn where you roll 3 ones or more, you can take another turn with 1 die less. Not a bad thing. We have Smoke Cloud. Place 3 smoke cloud counters on this card. That's these ones here. And again, like I said, it's very close to another token. You spend 1 smoke counter for an extra roll. You discard this when all smoke counters are spent. So that can allow you in 1 turn to roll 6 times instead of just 3. And then another one, again, costs 3 energy cubes. You gain 1 point for every 6 energy cubes you have at the end of the turn. And you go through and you can buy these. There is in the rules, if you don't like any of the cards that are up there, you can go ahead and discard them by spending energy tokens and draw 3 new cards. As I said, the player who is the last man standing or the first person to 20 points wins. And one other thing I forgot. If you go into Tokyo City, you automatically get 1 point. If you are in Tokyo City at the end of your turn, you get 2 points. Now, after you have been hit, if you're in Tokyo City, you can choose to leave Tokyo City. You don't have to wait for your turn. If you leave Tokyo City, that means the person whose turn it is has to move into Tokyo City. But of course, this is going to be after you've done any tallying of the dice. So if the person moving in rolled life, they would still gain their life before they move into Tokyo City. Overall gameplay, very enjoyable game. I've sat and played with friends and my kids, and they enjoy it a lot. It's fun, has nice fun artwork on it as well. Always a bonus when you're playing with some younger kids. As I had mentioned, the age range, ages 8 and up. That, I know they're going on an average. I honestly, with everything involved with this game, the cards you're buying, what you're doing, and the strategies in trying to win, unless they're a avid gamer, unless they play a lot of games, I almost would say 9 and up. It's worth trying. Like any game, it's worth trying with any kid any child you think is going to understand this. But on average, again, 9 and up would probably be a little bit better than 8 and up, just because there's a lot involved in this. And definitely, if you're throwing in some of the expansions, more cards, things like that, you might be looking at 9 and up. As for replayability, definitely replayable. It's one that's fun to bring out. Again, it does take about 30 minutes to get through, so unless you have a lot of time set aside, maybe the only game you're playing that evening. But definitely replayable. It's fun. Again, there's multiple ways to win. You get to beat up on your opponents, which my daughter loves to do, beats up on me and her brothers, so it's great. As for difficulty level, I'm going to go between a 2 and a 3. A little bit more difficult than Tsuro was, but not like I said with Arkham Horror, nowhere near Arkham Horror difficulty. This has a little bit more strategy than Arkham Horror, so not quite a 3. It's not. If you've ever played Settlers of Catan, that's what I would call a 3 to a 4. This not that difficult. Definitely a fun game. Definitely a game you can bring out. You don't need a lot of table room, which is great if you got a lot of players playing, or if you don't have a lot of room on your table to set up a game. Other than that. When I played, I've played the Tokyo Bay version a couple of times. I really would recommend no more than 4 players, because when you pull on Tokyo Bay, it does make it more difficult, not in a bad way, but it extends the gameplay, and if you're looking for a 30-minute game, you want to stay away from having 5 or 6 players. If you have time for 45 minutes to an hour, definitely 5 or 6 players. It just extends the time, makes it a little bit more you have to think of while you're playing. But overall, this is a great game. Definitely recommend it. Like I said, not quite sure how you pronounce the company, but if I can find one, I'll go ahead and put a link in the description to their site. Not sure if I played any other games of theirs, or that I have any other games of theirs, but it's definitely fun. And if you enjoy it, like I said, there's an expansion. I don't have the expansion yet, but maybe later on. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you soon.